It's amazing. No worries, go ahead. Check, check. Check, check. Good afternoon, beautiful people. Good afternoon, folks. If we could ask you to start taking your seats as the program is about to begin. If we could ask you, folks, to start taking your seats, the program is about to begin.
Testing. Oh. Greetings, everyone. As we settle into the second part of this momentous day, for those of us who were not here earlier, if you are requiring ASL interpretation, we will invite you to sit closer to the front so that our lovely ASL interpreters can share all the magic that is going to be happening this afternoon. Oh, thank you for the silence. We know we're loud people. So we'll have a couple more minutes, I think, and then we'll begin. Thank you. Hello, 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 hello. So it pays to be on time. So for any folks who are on the periphery, those who have not made it here as yet and we're supposed to sit in the middle, they are not yet. So we're inviting you to move to the middle if the seat is not already occupied, or if the seat is occupied and the person wants to share a seat with you, feel free to share it with them. One love. I love the lack of hesitation. Except for my seat. My seat, I think, has my stuff on it. I will need my seat. I'm hoping. And those of you who are still on the periphery and want to move up further, we encourage you to do that. I'm loving the reunions that are happening here today. We'll start in 1 minute. So if you haven't gone to the washroom, if you need to take a deep breath, now would be a great time to do that.
Ladies and gentlemen, please take your seats. The show and the conversation, which will happen later, is about to begin. Thank you very much.
friendships, minutes of a day to guide from the bottomless pit. But my aim was made strong by the hand of the Almighty. We forward in this generation triumphantly. Won't you help the sing? These songs of freedom is all I ever had. Redemption song, redemption song. Emancipate yourself from mental slavery. Number two, ourselves can free our mind. I've no fear for atomic energy, 'cause none of them can stop the time. Allah shall kill our prophets while we stand aside and look. Some say it's just a part of it. We've got to fulfill the book. Won't you else to sing? These songs of freedom is all I ever had. Redemption song, redemption song, redemption song. Emancipate yourself from mental slavery. Number two, ourselves can free our mind. Whoa, I've no fear for atomic energy, 'cause none of them can stop off the time. Allah shall kill our prophets while we stand aside and look. Some say it's just a part of it. We got to fulfill the book. Won't you else to sing? These songs of freedom is all I ever had. Redemption song, all I ever had. Redemption song, songs of freedom, songs of freedom.
Check, check, check. Continue to give her a round of applause. Isn't that beautiful? Good afternoon, folks. It's a pleasure and honor to have the opportunity to come together as community. It's been almost a couple of years since we've been able to do this in this kind of way, where we could see our elders, our brothers, our sisters, our folks who we haven't had the opportunity to connect with. And so I want you, if you can, to look left, look right, greet somebody you haven't seen in a while. Turn around, wave, say hello. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. I imagine you can already feel the energy. Folks you don't even need to speak with. Just knowing when we as black folks from the global African diaspora come together, there's always an energy and a presence there. It is us in who we are, but also our ancestors communicating and moving through us into this space. And that's always a beautiful thing. So I'm incredibly thankful that we could come together. We're going to have a wonderful conversation this afternoon, and we're going to be able to continue to build through this time of Emancipation Month. Now, I haven't introduced myself. My name is Anthony Morgan. I am the Senior Strategic Advisor of Intersectional Social Justice at the City of Toronto. Thank you. I work with the phenomenal Denise Andrea Campbell, who is our Executive Director in Social Development, Finance, and Administration. And I also have the incredible honor and privilege of having been the second manager of the Confronting Anti-Black Racism Unit. Of course, the founding manager of the Confronting Anti-Black Racism Unit, Elder Anania Ayodele Grant, is also here and will be in conversation. So today is shaping up to be, it's already been a very powerful, powerful gathering, and we know that it's going to continue to be. And without further ado, we will go over to the second number that is going to be performed by the Archangels Arts Academy. Let's give them a round of applause.
An evil is coming that threatens our kingdom. Look down there. They are not prepared.
Hello, new world, all the boys and girls. I got some true stories to tell. And when I wake up, I recognize you looking at me for the pay cut.
Come on!
I told you once, baby. I told you once, but I know you got to let it go.
Look how you take off my energy. Love your body, turning to me. You never do no wrong, you're a specialty. Liars.
Come on, rude boy, can you get it up? Come on.
Love not only come from talking, the light can only shine from the dark end. You come, rub up. Before you did stuck up. Make sure you know who you are, love up.
1, 2, 3. Don't this hit make my people wanna? Don't this hit make my people wanna? Don't this hit make my people wanna? Don't this hit make my people? Don't this hit make my people wanna?
You better watch out. Hot shit be ringing the cops out. Come on, street soldiers is ringing them shots out.
Short circuit, blacking the blocks out. Now open up the garage and pull the drops out. Rocking the box out.
Oh.
DJ, forward march.
Me, you can never break me. All I wanna say is that they don't really care about us. All I wanna say is that they don't really care about us.
Don't never take my power. They feel away. Oh wow. Don't never take my power.
Bossy, Godfather, and a OG, and a half, and a bossy. Fling a rubber rhythm like it's over. Fling a rubber rhythm like it's over.
centers where folks continue to, even when I messed up, applause and support and say, keep going. You learn, you grow that way. And so for our young people, they didn't mess up at all. They were amazing, weren't they? So these are the important seeds that we plant in them. And so I will carry it forward with our program. Again, that was the Archangels. And you know what? They recently did amazing, wowing the audience at the city's annual Stomp competition. So we have to give them a round of applause for that as well. So the Archangels Academy of Arts Dance Studio was established in 2015. So I want to say a couple of words about them so you know how to find them if you want to book them for your event. The owner and dance director, Carlotta McDowell, is a community supporter who is very passionate about dancing and teaches dance in excellence to others. The goal and mission of Archangels Academy of the Arts is to inspire positive change and affect one's life through dance. So once again, let's give them a round of applause. As was said earlier, my name is Anthony. I will be your MC for this afternoon, and I'm looking forward to stewarding us through the program towards a great empowering level of conversation and connection. This event has been organized in partnership with the Global African Communities Network, which is an assortment of different Black-serving Afrocentric organizations within our city, and also the City of Toronto and Toronto Public Library. So I want to give a shout out and round of applause for those folks. I can't forget, of course, NAPSI, the Network for the Advancement of Black Communities. Now, to begin, I would like to invite our colleague and partner from Toronto Public Library, Rochelle Gooden, to offer some words. Rochelle?
Thank you, Anthony. Hello, everyone, and welcome to North York Central Library. It's so good to see all of you, and so many people are here to celebrate with us. I'm going to just read the land acknowledgement for the library first to share, okay? North York Central Library is on Indigenous land. This is a traditional territory of the Haudenosaunee Confederacy, aka the Six Nations Confederacy, the Wendat, and the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation. Toronto Public Library gratefully acknowledges these Indigenous nations for the guardianship of this land. We'd also like to remind and reaffirm, as Torontonians and Canadians, our accountability to these Indigenous nations and to all Indigenous peoples and communities living in Toronto. This land is also part of the Dish with One Spoon territory, a treaty between the Haudenosaunee Confederacy, aka the Six Nations Confederacy, the Anishinaabe, and allied nations, to peaceably share and care for this land, its waters, and all of the biodiversity in the Great Lakes region. All those who come to live and work here are responsible for honoring this treaty in the spirit of peace, friendship, and respect. And now I'm calling back Anthony.
Check. Oh. All right. Miss Seal. All right. Thank you. Thank you, Rochelle, for those words and for the work that TPL has done to make this event happen. You, in particular, approached the city wanting the Toronto Public Library to do something. Rochelle, where is she? But she's just here. But she approached TPL wanting to do something, and we're glad that they stepped up and stepped forward so that we can enjoy this space. Now, hosting Dr. Garvey in this way is an incredible honor for all of us in the city of Toronto, and so we don't take it lightly. Now, the organization founded by the Honorable Marcus Garvey is called the Universal Negro Improvement Association. Many of us know this name, right? The UNIA. As someone from a Jamaican background, I was hugely influenced by the UNIA and the philosophy of Marcus Mosiah Garvey. His influence went beyond the Jamaican border when he was alive, and of course, since he's left us on this side of existence. Now, his influence, as we know, went across across the globe, across the global African diaspora. And as it did, we recognize that he's a person who has equally influenced many great leaders that have fought liberation struggles for the advancement of our collective African peoples. And so today is no small gathering of recognition when we think about the UNIA and what it means as one of the most significant, if not, many folks have said, the most significant movement in modern times of the global African diaspora coming together for the upliftment and advancement of our people through the work and philosophy of Marcus Mosiah Garvey. And so, on this note, I will now invite the UNIA, a representative from the UNIA, to come and offer a few words with us. Specifically, I want to welcome Ras Ayanai to come to the stage.
Yes, give thanks, everyone. Greetings, greetings. So I just want to start off. Haile Selassie, Negus Rastafari, Itiga Waizero Menenai, His Excellence Right Honorable Marcus Mosiah Garvey, Waizero Amy Garvey, Aitsanai is unto the Most High, Ancient of Days, Almighty of Ethiopia, who made I and I in their image and their likeness. So on the 1st of December 1919, 11 men and 2 women officially established the Toronto division of the UNIA. They obtained their official charter from the UNIA headquarters in Harlem, New York. 100 years to the month in December 2019, myself and 6 other individuals came together to reactivate a UNIA chapter and the UNIA division in Toronto. The Honorable Bertrand Joseph Spencer Pitt, one of the long-serving presidents of the Toronto Division. Honorable Spencer Pitt was born in 8th of September 1982 in Grenada and immigrated to Canada in 1926 to study law at Dalhousie University. By 1928, he was called to the bar in Ontario and set up his practice in Toronto. The Honorable B.J. Spencer Pitt also organized and held the annual Emancipation Day picnic held at Lakeside Park near St. Catharines. The UNIA used the August 1st observance in St. Catharines to raise racial consciousness and pride of its celebrants. At the peak, the big picnic attracted upwards of 8,000 visitors. The UNIA Hall. All funds for the UNIA Hall were raised by Toronto Garveyites, who in 6 years had raised enough funds to purchase the UNIA Hall building at 355 College Street. Ashe. This was likely and possibly the first black-owned secular building for public use in the city. Out of the 1937 UNIA ACL Convention emerged the School of African Philosophy, a course aimed to educate the next generation of UNIA leaders. Among the 10 pupils in the first class were 2 Canadians, Arthur Clement Moore and Abraham R. Roberts, both of Toronto. His Excellence, the Right Honorable Marcus Mosiah Garvey himself acted in the school's first year, taught in Toronto's UNIA Hall. The Toronto Division and its School of African Philosophy played a critical role in allowing the UNIA to continue while serving as a gateway for the spread of Garveyism and the teachings of Garveyism. Today, the course of African philosophy is being reproduced in a book appropriately titled The Message to the People, the Course of African Philosophy, or some call it The Message to the People. Who here knew that His Excellence, the Right Honorable Marcus Mosiah Garvey lived in Toronto, even for a short while? Okay. Now, His Excellency, the Right Honorable Marcus Mosiah Garvey, and his first wife, the lady Waizero Amy Ashwood Garvey, also honeymooned in Toronto and Montreal between December 1919 and January 1920. So I'd like to share a reading from the Message to the People, Lesson 3, Aims and Objectives of the UNIA. To establish a universal confraternity among the race. We mean by this that there must be a linking up of fraternal relationship with all members of the Negro race, with exclusion of none. To prompt the spirit of pride and love, it must be the mission of all Negroes to have pride in their race. To work for better conditions in all Negro communities, there should be a ceaseless effort among Negroes everywhere to improve their condition in every department of life and make their communities so prosperous as to compel the respect of their neighbor. Finally, I would like to say that, just make mention that there are actual nations that have gained their independence through the philosophy and opinions and teachings of His Excellency, the Right Honorable Marcus Mosiah Garvey. I want to give thanks to the head creator, the powers and ancestors, Dr. Garvey, the family, and everyone in attendance for the opportunity to speak and share the message to the people. And I would also like to say Africa for the Africans, those at home and those abroad. And I will conclude with the motto of the UNIA, one God. One faith. Sorry, I apologize. I have to ask everyone to please raise their black fist. Thank you. Ashe, Asante. And please, if everyone could please repeat after me, one God. One God. One aim, one destiny. Africa for the Africans, those at home, and those abroad. Race first.
Thank you very much, Rasayanai, for continuing the work. Now, the Liberation Flag is a reminder of the work of Marcus Garvey. We recognize that unless we teach the history of our people to the youth, it will be forgotten. And now is a time where we're seeing a threat to education around our black communities. When it comes to education and knowledge around the advancement of black communities, we are in this particular time where organizations are coming and vehemently opposing, exposing the histories of violence towards our communities, and so we cannot forget that. And we know that what the UNIA stand for, what Marcus Garvey pushed for, is a part of that tradition of telling a more complete story about ourselves. And so it is very important to the organizers of this gathering that youth were included in this day. The Youth Development Unit of the City of Toronto worked with the CABR unit, the Confronting Anti-Black Racism unit, to launch a competition that reimagined the original Ode to the Flag poem, originally written by Amy Jacques Garvey, Dr. Garvey's mother. So here to present the award to the winner of our 2023 edition of Ode to the Flag, I want to introduce you to Stephen Mensah. Stephen is the Executive Director of the Toronto Youth Cabinet. Stephen?
Hello. It's a blessing to be here in the presence of such, excellence and positivity and joy. So as mentioned, my name is Stephen Mensah. I'm the Executive Director of the Toronto Youth Cabinet. We are the City of Toronto's official youth advocacy body, established in 1998 by Toronto City Council, where we're working towards a more equitable and youth-friendly Toronto, one where young people, despite their socioeconomic status and demographic, are able to truly succeed and thrive and reach their full individual potential, no matter what that may be. So today I have the honor of presenting the award to the winner of the Reimagining the UNIA's original Ode to the Jacques Garvey, to the Flag poem entitled This Flag of Mine, written by Amy Jacques Garvey. It is with great pleasure that I present the winner of the competition to GQ Flacco. Jao, also known as his stage name GQ Flacco, is a rapper born and raised in the Scarborough area of Toronto. He has been rapping for 9 years and is looking to elevate far beyond the ozone layer with his powerful and insightful music. You can get more in tune with his music and journey through his Instagram at gq.flacco. Make sure to follow him so we can see his following count increase. He will now present the winning poem, Ode to the Flag, This Flag of Mine. So let's give it up for him once more.
In 1921, Mrs. Amy Garvey wrote this flag of mine, the official UNIA, Ode to the Flag. Regardless of what is told of it, here's to this flag of mine. The red, black, and green, hopes in its future bright, Africa has seen. Here's to the red of it, great nations shall know of it. In time to come, red blood shall flow of it. Historians shall write of it, great flag of mine. Here's to the black of it, 400 millions back of it, whose destiny depends on it. The red, black, and green of it, oh flag of mine. Here's to the green of it, young men shall dream of it, face shot in shells of it, waving so high. Here's to the whole of it, colors, grout, and pole of it. Pleased is my soul with it, regardless of what is told of it. Thanks God for giving it, great flag of mine.
You guys have the beat ready? Run the beat.
Hey. This is the red, black, and green anthem. Hey. You are now tuned in. Hey. Stand up.
P. Red, black, green molds the earth that I'm in. And since the universe is black, I hold the earth in my skin. Black is my oldest ancestor, nature gave birth to my kin. So when I talk about the green, I'm talking birth from within. Now that's the motherland, and for this flag I'll stand a toast to raise an upper hand. I shed my blood to fight a creature from another land, and that same blood connects my sister and my brother, man. For the red, I ain't sitting down, black energy is different. I'm a diaspora patriot, don't care about where I'm living. Read it in my blood, you know my family never given. It was deeper than the ocean that they had my people swimming. And for that I'll get as dark as can be. I spit that real blood spill to make your heart skip a beat. My OG came on a scooter, now he's right out in his seat. Cause all them sittings that he did made someone stand up as me. Black as the people that would stand up for me. Without knowing I think they would go crazy to see our current divide. I'm keeping it as real as can be, ain't telling no lie. Our people used to step on the streets, how we on the side. Green is all we chasing now, but do we know our natural wealth or is we faking now? You put your feet up in that grass, you gon' feel rich as ever. I find it crazy going home as a vacation now. Let's go home. If you're proud to be black, I wanna see one fist in the air. One fist in the air. When I count you guys in, we're gonna bounce it up and down like this. All right, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, bounce, 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 bounce. Keep going. Stand up, stand, stand, stand up, stand, 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 stand up, stand, stand, stand up, hey, stand, stand, stand up, stand. Stand, stand up, hey, stand, stand, stand up, stand, stand, stand up, hey, stand, stand, stand up, stand, 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 stand up, stand, stand, stand up, hey, stand, stand, stand up, stand, stand, stand up, hey, stand, stand, stand up. Stand, stand, stand up, hey, stand, stand, stand up, stand, stand. Now won't you stand for the red? Now won't you stand for the black? Now won't you stand for the green? Now won't you stand for me, yeah? Now won't you stand for the red? Now won't you stand for the black? Now won't you stand for the green? Now won't you stand for me, yeah.
right. Thank you so much for that amazing performance. Let's hear it again. I want to thank you for honoring the work and creative brilliance of Amy Jacques Garvey. Now, come on, wasn't that performance worthy of a Dwayne Morgan show? I know Dwayne's here. All right, I want to take this time to pay tribute to our community organizations. This event could not happen without community. We in the CABR and the City of Toronto more generally when serving Black communities recognize that we do nothing and we cannot be anything without our communities. But specifically for today, I'd like to recognize the collective of organizations that produced today. The Network for the Advancement of Black Communities, the Afro-Caribbean Farmers Market, and the Global African Communities Network. It is them that came together today to invite Dr. Garvey to be with us here, to grace us with his presence here today in Toronto, to hear about his work and the legacy of his father's work. Now, it's important to recognize that because we know that the stereotype goes out that Black people can't come together. We fight and we bicker too much and we can't organize. But we thought it would be really important to recognize that this came together because of the unity of our communities. Like any community, just like any family, there are ups and downs and there's sometimes disagreements. But at the end of the day, we are able to come together and recognize that for the generations to come, we will come together, we have come together, and we'll continue to build and thrive going forward, despite what anybody and any systems want to say about us and our communities. I would now like to invite Lori Beezer from the Afro-Caribbean Farmers Market, who is a member of the Global African Communities Network, to offer a few words about our special guests. Lori, please come with me.
Stay up here with me. Stay up here with me. So, this is the first time I've ever met Anthony Morgan before, and I see your name circulating, everywhere. So, pleasure to meet you, finally, and I'm kind of glad it's here that we're doing this, okay? I got to put my glasses on. It's that time of age, Age. No, man, come up here with me. Come up here with me. So, like he'd mentioned, my name is Lori Beezer, and I'm the founder of the Afro-Caribbean Farmers Market. Yeah, it's pretty special. I know. Canada's very first culturally specific farmers market. And since I am one of the organizers, I'm going to plug another event that I'm planning tomorrow because I can, because I'm the organizer, and I'm gonna. Tomorrow in Little Jamaica, we're hosting the world's first Jamaican Patty Festival. Yeah, I know. So I'm not going to be very long in introducing the great elder. I love you. You know that. I'm not going to be very long, but I am going to say a few words. And I'm going to put my glasses on. They gave me a script, but I'm not going to be long with it. So I want to thank Dr. Julius Garvey personally for being so warm and welcoming. I met you in 2019, and we hit it off. And I promised you to be in touch with you each and every month, and I haven't done that, but I will after today, I swear, okay? I promise. So, who is Julius Garvey? He was born on September 17, 1933, in Kingston, Jamaica. He's the son of the Honorable Marcus Messiah Garvey and Amy Garvey. Dr. Garvey is a recently retired board-certified cardio and vascular surgeon who last practiced in the state of New York with the Northwell Health System, New York's largest healthcare provider. He was a clinical associate professor of surgery at the Albert Einstein College of Medicine. He has been internationally schooled in England, Jamaica, the United States, and of note, he is a graduate of the McGill University here in Canada as well. Mr. Garvey has been on several educational and medical missions around the globe and has lectured in such places as Ghana, Senegal, Mali, Sierra Leone, South Africa, Jamaica, Belize, Haiti, South Sudan, and Ethiopia. He is currently the CEO of the Marcus Garvey Institute for Human Development and is proud lecturer on the achievements, life, and legacy of his father. He has recently written a second edition of his father's book, The Opinions and Philosophies of Marcus Garvey. So with that, Anthony.
Thank you so much for that, Lori. And I'm so glad that we're capturing this. One of the things that we recognize is, as we strive to bring together narratives and uphold our people, that a lot of our moments and experiences like this end up being erased. They're not deeply embedded within our school curriculum, or the stories that we tell often are the only thing that hold moments like this. And so I've seen that the cameras are here, and all of your energies and memories here today are going to carry this forward. Now, I want to note that the Global African Communities Network have been working with community organizations to make this event happen. And so we're now at the point where we've been waiting for, this great conversation that we've been talking about happening between Dr. Garvey, his grandson, Chase Garvey Daniels, and Toronto's own Ainania Ayodele Grant. Clap, man. So essentially, this is the main event. There's a voice often that my folks in the city enjoy that I do to note when a big event is happening, and it goes like this: ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls of all ages, now for the main event. So it's gonna be special. We joke, but it is gonna be special. Ainania is no stranger to us, of course. As our founding manager of the Confronting Anti-Black Racism Unit, and then went on to be the Director of Community Resources within Social Development, Finance, and Administration. She's truly a transformative leader. I know I've been transformed, and our communities are transformed by our ongoing impact. As a change maker, she is well sought out. She's a well sought after public speaker and consultant on decolonizing leadership, women's liberation, anti-Black racism disruption, and anti-Black racism disruption, and African spirituality. This leadership coach and author calls herself a spiritual liberation activist and is passionate about indigenous African wisdom systems and power to create bold and meaningful change. She is CEO and principal of Ainania Learning Journey, Inc., and was the lead consultant on creating the Toronto Action Plan to confront anti-Black racism. And she also established in doing so, helped establish North America's first office to confront anti-Black racism, part of the team that brought this event here today together. And some of the members of the team are here, and so if you get the opportunity to say hello, please do. Back to Ainania, of course, thinking about what she's been able to do. She's also one of the featured global luminaries of 2023 Voices of Power in Chicago, which will be featured this August. So that is Ainania. Now, I'd like to thank Dr. Julius Garvey. Thank you for your presence here. Thank you for being so warm and welcoming. And when you think about it, it's hard to believe that you are as sprightly, as young as you are, coming here to join us today, knowing that the great wisdom that you carry. Now, of course, you've instructed us not to treat you in any way that would be standoffish, because you've made a career of being connected to our communities. And so I'm going to say a few more words about you as I introduce you. Now, I'd like to have Ainania prepare to come to the stage as well, and Dr. Julius Garvey, as well as Dr. Julius Garvey's grandson, Chase Alexander Garvey Daniels. We'll just give them a moment to set up. But if I could, Elder, before we get started, I just want to make a quick note.
No, I'm good.
Again, generations matter so much, and we're having a multi-generational conversation that I think is so important for us to have and to continue to have as we always engage young people in the youth, but also our elders, because collectively that is how we build. And so I hand it over to our elder, Ainiya, Dr. Julius Garvey. It's an honor and pleasure. And Chase, it's great to meet you.
It's nice to meet you too.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Anthony. Thank you so much. This is beyond a privilege.
Well, it's a privilege for me too, hearing all of your accomplishments and your good work.
I have to start by sharing, I got a call from Antigua.
Oh.
And the call was because somebody saw a promo that I was going to have a conversation with you. And so they wanted me to know how amazing that is. And in case I forget that I'm speaking with the son of the King of His Majesty, the Honorable Marcus Garvey. And then what they didn't know is that I am extra privileged because I'm also speaking with the grandson, the great-grandson of the Honorable Marcus Garvey. It is indeed such an honor. And I grew up on the philosophies of Garvey.
Good.
When my son was 9, I gave him the book. I was asking him the other day if he remembered. He's like, I don't remember. But somewhere it's ingrained in him. He's actually here today.
Oh.
And so we know that we have elders here today. I want to acknowledge that we have elders specifically from the Eritrean and the Ethiopian community. We have elders from the Nigerian community.
Good,
We have elders, I'm sure, from the Kenyan community. So Africa is here, right? Africa is here. And I just think it's so important. So it's so important to acknowledge our elders first. I want to acknowledge our ancestors, because without our ancestors' wisdom and resourcefulness and resilience and all the other things that run through our vein, we couldn't be here. So I want to acknowledge that. And then I want to acknowledge the children. I got calls that people were bringing their families. I don't know where they are. They're probably in the overflow room. But the fact that they're children, oh yeah, I see children. I see children here. That there are children here that you get to see and feel and hear from this elder. It's amazing. And his grandson. So thank you so, so very much. Dr. Garvey, before I go into this list of questions I have, and I know I won't get through them all, because we only have 40 minutes. I don't know why they gave us 40 minutes. How can you talk to Dr. Garvey for 40 minutes? But we have 40 minutes. But before we start, I want to ask you to start us off with some opening remarks, and you as well, if Chase, if you want to do that. But to open us up, and then I will go into my questions.
Okay. I don't know how long I should take, but
you're the elder. Take as long as you want.
It's great to be here to share this space with you on this particular time, Emancipation Week, and Emancipation Month, if you will. And the flag raising ceremony, I don't know how many of you are out there, but it was very, very moving. Mm-hmm. And of course, there's a little bit of history. But behind the flag, it was given to us by Marcus Garvey and the organization in 1920, so a little over 100 years ago, at the first International Convention of the Negro Peoples of the World, which took place in Harlem, New York. with over 2,000 delegates from all over the world, Africa, Caribbean, Latin America, United States, Canada, et cetera, et cetera. So that was the first global meeting of African people. And they came up with the rights of the Negro people of the world, which was then obviously our Magna Carta as a group, because we were coming out from slavery in the Caribbean. Slavery ended in 1838, I guess in the States was 1865, and the Civil War. And colonialism had started in 1884, 1885. So, you know, this was just after the First World War, and everybody was fighting for democracy. So we were claiming our space. Yes. And that came out of that, the rights of the Negro peoples of the world. Along with that was our flag, because now we were being recognized, or we were being stated as a nation. At that time, supposedly we were 400 million African people in the world. I'm not going to use the term Negroes anymore because that's a little bit passé, but you know, that was the term that was used at the time. So the organization itself represented 400 million African people, and this was our Magna Carta, and this was our flag, the red, black, and green. I think you heard it from my mother's ode, you know, the red in terms of the blood that was shed and that was sacrificed so that we could be here, and the black, you know, and you know, the black represents us as a people. But I just want to insert one of my father's quotes, which I like, and it's that the black skin is not a badge of shame. Rather, it is a symbol of our national greatness. And I think that's important, you know, and of course the green has to do with our wealth and ensuing generations, etc. But I think that's important, because as we talk about anti-black racism, I think that the greatest way in which we can fight racism against us is really to know who we are as a people.
Let's just take a breath on that, yeah? All the children, can you say that again? And I'm going to ask you to say many things again. Okay. But I think our children need to hear this.
Yeah, as you know, my dad said, people without the knowledge of their past history, traditions, and culture is like a tree without roots. And of course, you know, we were uprooted physically, and historically we've been separated from our history. So the way in which to repair that damage is for us to know our history and to know our culture, and to really be embedded in it. You know, for myself, I was fortunate to grow up in the Garvey household. So I always knew that I was an African. I was never just, quotes, a Jamaican. I know there are Jamaicans in the house, and they're not going to like that. But, but I wasn't just a Jamaican. Every morning I woke up, I knew I was an African, you know, and in my travels around the world, you know, at the present time, I'm an African person here in Canada. I live in the United States, and I travel around the world. But wherever I go, I'm an African. And, you know, I think each of us also... Each of us has to make a journey, and the journey is to oneself. You know, fortunately, I've lived long enough to be, you know, some distance along on that journey in terms of knowing who I am. And you know, my dad said, you know, knowledge is key, and he said there's knowledge, you know, everywhere. All you have to do is go out and find it. And you'll find all the knowledge that you want, because it's out there. And of course, we know we live in the information age. So it's up to each and every one of us to find that knowledge that we need, that knowledge about who we were, what we've done in the past. You know, what is it that makes this, you know, a symbol of national greatness? Obviously, we're the first people. If you read long enough, you'll find that out. We're the first human beings. We populated the universe. Everybody comes from us, so we're the first everything, you know. Yeah. And you'll find out that we're the first civilized people, and we civilized the world. If you know our history, we civilized the world. Now, and you know, you also know that the world now has grown up and has come back, and for whatever reason, well, it's been attacking us as an African people, whether it's the Arabs or the Greeks or the Romans, and certainly the rest of the Europe and the United States of America, et cetera, et cetera. But, you know, they can't do without Africa, because not only do we have this in terms of our people, but we have pretty much all the resources in the world, and we feed the world. We have civilized the world, we have populated the world, and, you know, the world depends on us for just about everything in terms of our lithium, our gold, our platinum, our manganese. You know, even the land itself, we have 60% of the cultivatable land in the world. So, you know, Africa is a wonderful place that has been giving to the world over time. So we have nothing to be ashamed of. You know, when you get up in the morning and you look in that mirror and you see your African face, I mean, celebrate it. Because you're the mothers and fathers of humanity, and you've given everything to humanity. So I just want to start off there.
That's a great way to start.
There you
You
go.
just answered about 3 of my first questions, you know?
No,
So-
but it's great to be African.
If you're black, you're African.
There you go.
You're black, you're African. Chase, did you want to add anything to that opening?
Not to add anything necessarily, but I just wanted to share my appreciation and gratitude for welcoming me into this space. And I just every single conversation that I've had with everyone here, every age range, every demographic, you've all just been so kind, and I've been learning so much. So I just wanted to say I'm very appreciative. And then the second thing I want to say is one of the speakers touched on this a little bit ago, where he was talking about how, you know, sometimes it's hard to find unity within the black community, but I mean, I don't know if you can feel it, but I can feel it immensely how powerful it can be when we all got it together in the room right here. So I hope you feel that with me. This is really an incredible experience. So thank you.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you so much. You know, when we established the Confronting Anti-Black Racism Unit, and we had many things in the office, and I remember one day, Anthony came in with a flag. He's like, this flag has to go up now. It's time. It was probably week 3, you know? The flag has to go up. And so that flag is so important to us. And so I'm so happy that you explained how important, the significance of every single thing, and especially the pride of us being black. My father was a Garveyite. So much so, I brought the book, right? So this is held on my father is no longer with us, but this is held on my altar for my
catechism?
father. Yeah, this is the Constitution, right? So he lived and breathed this book, and lived and breathed the Constitution. And my father was many things, and an activist was the main thing. My father was an activist, was committed to black liberation, yeah? And I know for sure, I wasn't raised with my father. As a matter of fact, he came into my life when I was a teenager. But I know that the work that I do and the decolonizing work that I'm so committed to is influenced by my father, you know? And so I wonder how it's influenced you in particular ways, in tangible ways, as throughout your life. And you've had many lives, I'm sure, in your young 90-year-old self. But how has your father's philosophies specifically influenced your life?
Well, you know, I'll get to that in a sense, but one of the things that always makes me feel proud, because, you know, very often, historically, and this is one of the problems with us, we tend to downgrade our own people very often. And many people will write about Marcus Garvey, and they'll say, oh, you know, the rise and fall of Marcus Garvey, you know, and that's how they phrase it. You know, he had his period, and it's like it's over. But the thing that always astounds me is that Marcus Garvey is never over. You see him rising generation after generation.
Yeah.
And it's wonderful, you know, as Chase was saying, when you come to an event such as this, 10 people, 20 people come up to me and say exactly what you said. My father was a Garveyite. My uncle was a Garveyite. My grandfather was a Garveyite. You know, we had philosophy and opinions at home, yeah, and on and on and on. And this, to me, is the real significance of Marcus Garvey, that he has influenced so many lives beyond the 6 million followers that he had back in the 20s, and beyond people like Kwame Nkrumah, Jomo Kenyatta, and so on, and so many other leaders. But so many people who are doing the work. You're doing the work. And as you just said, you're doing the work because your father instilled that in you, because he was a Garveyite. And so many people here are doing the same thing. And that's what I'm doing to the extent that I can do that. And that's because of lessons learned from my dad. And just getting back to that in the personal sense, you know, the last time I saw my dad, I was 5 years old, and he died when I was 7 years old, so there wasn't a lot of direct interaction per se. But my mother raised me. She never remarried or anything. She was totally dedicated both to him and to the movement. So I'm a movement child. I'm a real Garveyite in terms of that, of not just the DNA, but in terms of being indoctrinated. So I've been influenced by that all of my life. You know, she certainly always advocated excellence in whatever you do, because that was one of my father's tenets. And you know, I love one of the things that he said, you know, that character is your most important possession. And she always instilled that in both myself and my brother. I had an older brother, he was 3 years older, but he died 2 years ago. So the influence of having two Garvey parents is enormous in terms of my own life. So that I've always sort of, you know, known that I was African, but always searching for what does it mean to be an African. Because, you know, being an African is not just a word, and it's not just a geography, you know, but it's not just a history, but it's a whole tradition and culture that goes back again to the beginning of civilization. And you really have to know what that is and what that was, because that's what shaped humanity, and that's what we gave to the rest of humanity. And that is what has been distorted and destroyed, because, for example, if you look at this so-called monotheistic religions, they all came out of Egypt, out of Kemet, out of Ethiopia. And the so-called philosophy, the Greek philosophy, is misunderstood African philosophy. So when you get back and you learn about your ancestors, and you learn about who you are, and you really learn it, you don't learn it from somebody who's denigrating it, but you learn it from somebody who understands it. And that's one of the things that's a problem. You don't always have access to the books. You don't always know who to read and what to read, et cetera, et cetera. But it's a wonderful experience, because then you really come into yourself over time as a human being, because our ancestors understood what it meant to be fully human, and not just people who related to sensory experience and egotism. You know, I must have this, I must have that, I want what you have. No, but the deep experience of what it really means to be a spiritual person, because as you know, we're spiritual people. So we know that we're spiritual people having a physical experience, and the mind is the interface between the spirit and the body. But when you get to that, and you can look from that perspective out, then nothing can really harm you. And that's what gives you your strength. And that's what survived the Middle Passage. It was our spirit that survived the Middle Passage. And that's what will survive anti-black racism. And it won't just survive it, it will conquer it.
It will conquer it.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know,
victory is assured.
Victory is assured. I often say to decolonize is to humanize.
Beautiful.
Because if we decolonize our minds, then we return to our human self, which is our African self.
Yes.
Yeah? And so it's so important. I'm so glad you went there. I never thought you would go there. I guess I never really researched enough.
No,
but I'm glad you went there.
But that young man was saying something about your spiritual presence and work that you do.
Yeah.
So I thought I would go there because of
Thank
that.
you. Thank you. Yeah, you're listening. You're listening. Awesome. So I want to turn to the audience because I don't assume that I have all your questions. Yeah. So I don't know who's going to help me, but we're going to take 2 questions from the audience, and then I'll ask if it's not answered. Then I'll ask what I have on my list here. So if you raise your hand, I guess, okay, here we are, right at the back. Can you stand up? Yes, and go to the mic and ask your question. Let us know your name and where you're from and all of that.
My name is Tamika McLaren. I am the ATU International Black Caucus representative for Canada, and I'm also the ATU Black Caucus Vice President for our 113 local Black Caucus chapter with the Toronto Transit Commission.
Welcome. Welcome, TTC.
Dr. Garvey, it was a pleasure meeting you today. And I understand and I hear what you're saying. Yes, we are African first, Jamaican by birth, and we talked. Sunday coming is our Emancipation Day for Jamaica. So I'm very proud of that. And knowing that as an African descent, I can go back to Africa without a visa because I can just walk home when I am ready. My question to you is this. As a young Black female coming up, trying to do the work, going out there, because a lot of our young Black babies are in trouble. Don't know how many people recognize that. But a lot of them are in trouble. Doing the community work as a Black female, dealing with obstacles. I was raised on Marcus Garvey's words back home because he is one of our national heroes. My dad was a Garveyite. How do I, as a young Black woman, go through the struggles that I go through every day in trying to build within the community, in trying to network so we can do and continue the work of Marcus Garvey? Our Black Caucus, that's our flag. Or everything that we do, the Garvey flag is our motto. How do we, and as a young Black female leader, go about trying to build with all the obstacles we're still going through?
Thank you.
Yeah, you know, we are in a dire position, so to speak, and in some sense, we've been in that position for the last 500 years, and therefore it's a struggle. In terms of personal struggle, it's a struggle, a family struggle, it's a community struggle, it's a national struggle. Because the forces that are out there are designed for you not to accomplish what you want, and not to be your best self, but to accomplish what they want, and for you to do the things that they see fit that you should do, which is basically work for them, and their goals that they're trying to achieve. So you live in an environment that's essentially negative from the time you wake up in the morning, and you go through it when you pick up the newspaper and you see the news of starving people in Africa, or a Black man kills somebody somewhere and you see his picture. When a white guy does it, you never see his picture, you know, et cetera, et cetera. You know, starving kids in Africa, or another coup in Africa, or so on and so forth. You know, one of the things that I think, I wouldn't say escapes everybody, but is underrated, is the understanding of my father, or understanding the work of my father in terms of self-transformation. Mm-hmm. And that this was a very, very big part of the movement. It was to educate, and educate not to get a degree, but to educate in terms of knowledge of self, so that you can transform yourself from somebody who had been enslaved, from somebody who had been colonized, from somebody who didn't know who they were, to somebody who was fully in possession of themselves in terms of all their faculties, and being able to, you know, direct their life in that sense. Mm-hmm. And, you know, one of the quotes that I like is that, you know, man, and of course it includes woman, Mine is the individual that can shape his character, master his will, direct his life, and create his own destiny. That puts the responsibility on you because you have that gift. And there's another one that I like. I think I mentioned it earlier on, but just to repeat it here. God and nature, first made us who we are. And then out of our own creative genius, we make ourselves what we want to be. Follow always that great law and let God and the sky be our limit and eternity our measurement. So what that is telling you is that you have all the potential in the world, that you're made in the image of God, and you can really accomplish anything that you want to accomplish. So self-knowledge is the most important knowledge. And you said, when you fully get to know yourself, it makes you feel, you know that you have no human master. You know that God is your only master. And it gives you such courage that no one can intrude on your rights as a human being. And you can manifest anything that you want in terms of your potential. So it's self-knowledge. And, nowadays you might call it meditation. You need to really get into who you are, what you do every day, and revise it, take up certain period of time of the day, evening preferably, or you can do it morning and evening or what have you. So you review the day in terms of what you've done, and what you did right, what you didn't do right, and you can figure out what is the pattern that you're following, that you keep repeating this and you're not getting the result that you want. And then you have an understanding that you can change the pattern. And you decide next day that you're going to change the pattern. You're not going to do what you did the day before. You're going to move in a different direction because you can see, looking at your mind, looking at your habitual patterns, that there's something that caused that particular pattern. But you don't have to follow that because whatever it was that caused it no longer exists. So you're living on a past situation, not on the current situation. And therefore, that's why you keep repeating the past. But you can create a future by opening up that space in your mind and in terms of your behavior. And you have all the potential in the world. So it's a matter of self-correction over time. And it's not easy looking at your mind, confronting yourself, because sometimes you may not like yourself in terms of what you see. But it's who you are and what you are, and what you have to work with. And I know that doesn't apply to you because you're a wonderful young person. But definitely you can confront and overcome any of the obstacles in life. That's the human potential.
Thank you.
Can I add something really quickly?
Yes, of course.
I just wanted to say, and I know I'm younger than actually most of the people here, but just humbly, I think that's something that has been crossing my mind for years and years and years on end, has been mental health in the Black community. And it's interesting because for so long it was okay, you gotta be strong, you gotta be brave, you have to be, you gotta be hard, you gotta be tough, right? You can't be weak, you can't be soft, you can't be emotional, right? You can't be sad, you can't cry, all these things, right? So I just want to say, from what I've learned, and I learned this a lot from my father, so my name is Garvey Daniels, so my mom is Zinga Garvey, and my dad is Norris Daniels, but something that was really cool is my dad always made sure to bring ideals of Marcus Garvey, even when I was living with him and spending time with him, because he's this is a part of your history. But something that I learned from my dad, who's one of the strongest men that I know, and a real man in the sense that he has strength with being emotional. He can be emotional in a critical way where it's he's not going to let his emotions overwhelm him or rule him in any capacity. But just the fact that he can step back and he's okay, maybe I'm sad right now. Let me just take a second. Let me see how I feel about this. And then let me create a course of action so that I can address these feelings, right? But something that he taught me was just that if you're feeling something, if you're feeling like the weight of the world's on your chest, you know, I mean, that intersectionality, being a black woman, oh my God, like that's hard. And I just want to like stress that you should never invalidate your feelings like that. And you shouldn't think that just because it's like you should feel it, you know, like feel it if you gotta feel. But then take that and channel it properly and then just, you know, follow what he said. I can't put it any better than that, so.
And a child should lead us. Thank you. You're not by any means a child. Tandy.
Warmest greetings, Dr. Aina, Dr. Julius Garvey, and sorry, your name again is?
Chase.
Chase. My name is Sister Tandy Way. I'm a lawyer and I'm an organizer for the All African People's Revolutionary Party, which was founded by great son of Africa, Kwame Nkrumah, in 1968, and Ahmed Sékou Touré. So my question is, given the great contribution of the Honorable Marcus Mosiah Garvey and his focus on Africa, he used to say, Africa for Africans, those at home and those abroad. My question is, why is it important for our people, particularly in the diaspora, to understand the centrality and importance of Africa, our homeland, to our liberation wherever we are? Because some of our ancestors used to say, and still we carry on that message, until Africa is liberated, no African anywhere is free. So, Dr. Garvey, I just wanted to ask you to please address the importance and centrality of our rich continent, the richest continent on the planet, which is under attack in the Congo, in Niger, everywhere, and why it's important for us as Africans to organize, continue the legacy of the Honorable Marcus Garvey, to organize for the total liberation and unification of Africa. And if you could also explain the importance of organization and the benefits of it in terms of our own individual collective growth and development. Thank you so much.
You got 2 questions in there. I love it. Thank you.
Yeah, you know, what is it? I think Peter Tosh said, well, everywhere you go, you're an African. Wherever you go, you're an African. You know, everywhere you go, you're an African. Even if you don't know it, other people know it. They say, oh, there's an African, you know. They're not going to say, there goes a Chinese person or an Indian person or a Russian person. They're going to say, there goes an African. And that means that, you know, all Africans are really African. And Africa is our continent. And you will not get any respect as an African in the diaspora until the continent of Africa gets the respect that it deserves. And that works the other way around too. You know, if we disgrace ourselves as Africans in the diaspora, it reflects on continental Africans. So we're really tied at the hip, or maybe we're tied at the skin and we can't get away from it. So we have to accept that and we have to deal with it. And, you know, I'm aware of your organization, you're doing good work, and, you know, one of the things that your organization supports really is an African Union that's really a federated United States of Africa, which is something my father talked about back in 1927, something that Kwame Nkrumah wanted, something that we still don't have in terms of the African Union. But, you know, it's being talked about a little bit more now, and we all have to work towards that, because Africa cannot solve its problems as individual nation states, 54 different nations. It just won't happen that way, because some of the nations are so small, they're failed states. Some of the nations were created really by Europeans who, you know, just simply draw borders on a map and divided, you know, you from me and me from Chase, et cetera, when we're family. So we can't keep honoring that. It's silly to keep honoring that and claiming that we're Africans. So we have to reconstruct ourselves as a federal unit. So there's all of that work, that has to be done, and it has to be done in concert with the diaspora as the sixth region, because again, there are 300 million, 400 million of us out here in the diaspora, and many of us are well educated, have resources, et cetera, and we've talked about all the how rich the African continent is. So you marry that degree of mineral wealth, agricultural wealth, et cetera, with the intellectual capacity and the finances that you have in the diaspora, you have a winning combination. So we really have to work very hard at that to continue to liberate the continent. At this point in time, we have to liberate the continent economically. In the same way, we have to liberate ourselves economically, because that's what's going to drive everything else. We have the political liberation. We all have flags and national anthems and all that kind of stuff. And our leaders have Mercedes-Benz and BMWs and so on and so forth. But the people are still suffering because we're not united, and we need to do that. Yeah.
Thanks, Dr. Garvey. We're going to get to, I want to ask a question I don't want us to miss. So almost in all of your answers, you're inviting us to go within. Almost in all your answers, you're saying, go to self. We have to liberate ourselves. And then you're saying, and we also, at the same time, also liberate together and unite. And we're 1 year left in the UN Declaration for people of African descent. We have 1 year left. And I have to ask you then, how should we be using the teachings of the Honorable Marcus Garvey? How should we be going back to these philosophies that many of us use at different times to empower Pan-Africanism and overall Black sovereignty? Because that's what we're talking about. What should we individually, what should I, Ainania, be thinking about to do? We have 1 year left.
Well, what you're asking is what to do individually.
And collectively. Because what
All right,
I'm hearing you,
let's
there is...
deal with
yeah,
them.
okay.
We can deal with it
Yeah.
in some way separately.
Yeah.
Because both are important.
Yes.
Perhaps most important is the individually. Do we have time? Or?
Do we have 10 minutes? We're good.
10 minutes? Okay. I won't take that long. Life is a journey. Each of us has been given the gift of life. And it's up to us to do what we choose to do with that gift of life during that period of time that we live. 20 years, 50 years, 90 years, 100 years, or what have you. Nobody can live your life for you. You are responsible for your own life. Therefore, you have to get to know yourself in terms of who you are, what your talents are, what your capacities are, and what it is that you want to do with your life as an individual and as part of a family, as part of a community, as part of a nation, as part of the human race. We live in a society that is auto-directed, meaning everybody's into their TV or their smartphone or whatever, and that tells them what to do. Even the educational process is like that. It's not about your own creativity. It's about your teachers telling you what to do, page so-and-so to page so-and-so, and you remember it and you get an A+. And this just perpetuates a certain particular type of culture and so on, which is a Eurocentric culture. which comes from a lack of understanding, a full understanding of what the human being is, because it's simply a physically and mentally oriented, meaning the physical sensations of the body, you know, what is liked and what is not liked, and the mental response to those physical sensations. And then satisfying things that yourself in terms of the things that you like, and getting rid of the things that you don't like. And that's what life is all about. And at the end of the day, if you have a large collection of the things that you like, then somehow you have won. You know, you have 3 houses and 2 wives and 10 children and 5 Cadillacs and, you know, whatever, BMWs, then you've won. What have you won? You've won nothing but the grave. And you probably lived a miserable life, you see, but that's not the way to live your life. From an African perspective, you have to know who you are, because essentially you're a spiritual person made in the image of God, and that is what you have to project. So each of us then has to make that journey to find who we are essentially. And once we do that, then we can project that image outside of ourselves. And we can function then, and not just to benefit ourselves, but because if you're a spiritual entity, essentially, you don't have a boundary, you don't have a border. Spirit has no rules in terms of borders. I'm connected to you spiritually right here. And I can feel your vibes right here. You know, and the same thing, you mentioned the vibes that you felt, you know, from the group here. And I feel, you know, the same vibes. We're all on the same page, so to speak. And there's a comfort, and there's a warmth, et cetera, that is not coming through any of our 5 senses. It's being picked up by our consciousness, our spiritual self, which is part of the energy of the world, the universe itself, and so on and so forth. So I'm going a long way around. I'm not sure I'm going to get to the answer that you want. But the point is that each of us has to make a journey individually to get to some intimate knowledge of ourselves that we project and that we maintain every day. The greatest power in the world is to be your true self continually. It's not to beat up on anybody else. It's not to have, you know, 10 servants or 20 wives or whatever. The greatest power in the world is to be your true self continuously, day by day, moment by moment, you know, and so on. And that's the way you win. That's the way you win the battle. You see, but of course, then you also need knowledge, and that was the other aspect. I think we dealt to that with some degree, that we need to know who we are, where we come from. And the glorious history that we have over time that goes back, you know, certainly 10,000 years, you know, when Europeans were in caves and so on and so forth. So we need to know that so that we can project that. And again, if we, shall we say, rest our understanding of self in our spiritual self, then we can overcome any obstacle. And because that also gives us access to the creativity of the universe. And that's why we're such creative people. You know, all of the new things that are happening out there culturally and so on, music and dance and literature and so on and so forth, it's all us. You know, it's all our creativity, because we're basically spiritual people. But, you know, some of that has been misdirected, you know, but again, if we have develop a full understanding of ourselves and gain that type of knowledge, then we'll know how to express ourselves spiritually, but really creatively on a day-to-day basis, and we can solve whatever problem comes up to us, because we can create a solution to the problem, because there's no such thing as a problem that's insoluble. No such thing. There's always a solution, and you can create that solution if you're centered, shall we say, in the universe, where the universe itself is total potential. So self-knowledge is of extreme importance. And then you get to the collective aspect of it, which again, I won't deal with, but you understand that. If you understand one, you understand 1 plus
You
1 equals
answered it,
2. Yeah.
because I think often what we're trying to do is do the collective, and we ourselves have not, we don't even know who we are. But we're doing all of that external. Let's do the collective.
Yeah.
And as activists, sometimes that's what happens, because we see that there's a need for a shift. So we're trying to do that, but we have not touched ourselves. So I think you've answered the question. We might have 3 minutes, but Chase, I do want to hear from you, if you could very quickly. What is your message as Chase, but also as the grandson of Marcus Garvey? What is your message to these young people who are in the room? I see them as young. I think I saw somebody looking like about 5 years old, but we also have teenagers. We want to hear from you on that.
What my message is?
Yeah. He takes a sip. A real black man. He takes a sip, he sits back. And, you know, did anybody
Let me get comfortable. Let me get comfortable. Okay. Well, so I mean, I sort of live by, I have my own like life philosophy. And this is, it's interesting because it's like, I don't like talk about this with people. It's something that I just sort of keep to myself, and like, this is how I pursue things. And like, if anything, it's evident, like if you know me, and like through my actions or stuff like that. But I'm in like the job searching phase right now. So I'm just trying to like, I've been having to like distill like my persona and like who I am into like all these little like applications or whatever. Which is ridiculous, but something that a phrase that I came up with that I think like very succinctly describes like the person that I am and like how I live is that I seize the day, dive deep, and extract as much beauty as possible. Well said. And I think that's like a pretty cool way to live. I mean, at least for me. I don't know. I don't want to like project that onto you. But I mean, the way I sort of see it is that I mean, in terms of seizing the day, that's just like every second counts. Exactly. And I'm not even like, it's not like I like harbor on death at all, but it's like, I live like 24 hours at a time, and I try not to get too clouded by the future, because I think it can be super exhausting. It can like provide like a lot of anxiety. So live 24 hours at a time, seize the day. In terms of diving deep, it's like just commitment, you know, it's commitment and it's being present in whatever you're doing. So whether it's like having a conversation with someone, drinking water, sitting back in your chair, whatever it is that you want to do, it's like commit with your full force. And then extracting as much beauty as possible from life. It's just like, I mean, life is beautiful, and it's like there's a lot to be grateful for. And it's so easy. I think it's a lot easier to be negative about things. And it's a little bit harder to smile sometimes, which is why if you make it a conscious effort every time you start your morning, you're like, okay, I'm gonna make sure I'm gonna try to find something beautiful today. You know what I mean? Like, I'm gonna see the beauty in people, right? Or I'm gonna see the beauty in like anything. Then your day just gets like a lot better. You become happier, the interactions you have with people become better, people feel better in your presence, and like the world just gets like a little bit brighter. So if that's one message, that's what I got for you all.
Well said.
Smooth.
Thank you. That was powerful. That was powerful. Dr. Garvey, they only gave us 40 minutes.
Okay.
We made the best of it, I think, though, right? I think we made the best of it. You got some messages. And so, one last nugget, not a long one, just one nugget that everybody's going to hashtag.
I think we did all of it.
We did it? We did it. We did it.
We did it.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thanks, everyone. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. That was wonderful. Very good. Thank you.
All right, folks. Wasn't that an amazing conversation? All right, so thank you for spending this time. There are refreshments that are going to be offered. They're going to be set up shortly. Also know that Dr. Garvey's book is on sale if you would like to purchase a copy, just over here in the corner. Now, I know many folks want to socialize. There's a few folks that I want to thank first before we close out. So I would like to thank, of course, the Network for the Advancement of Black Communities. I'd also like to recognize the Afro-Caribbean Farmers Market, the City of Toronto, of course, the Toronto Public Library. I also thank you all for attending and making this a memorable gathering. Now, we want to make sure that what happens here, we carry this energy and the conversations, the knowledge and the wisdom into our community, and we have it reflect back, and we continue to build and grow together, stronger with the wisdom that was shared, going inside, but also looking towards how we can center ourselves to impact the world beyond. I know that we have many other gatherings. This is, of course, what we will continue to call Caravana Weekend. So there are lots of events that is about more than Jump Up. It's about our history and tradition of liberation and freedom. But of course, part of that is jumping up and having a good time. And so I encourage you all to safely have fun, enjoy, connect with community, and let's find ways to make Emancipation Month a month full of gatherings and sharing and positivity for all of us, all right? And on that, I say have a good afternoon. Some of the refreshments I see are coming out now. Oh yeah, there are also other vendors here that I forgot to mention. Please be sure to check out the vendors. Pardon?